What if I told you that Bane's counter is the king? And check this out, it's already 19 minutes in, but we've barely taken any damage. So now, let me show you exactly how I roam when playing solo RG. Alright, then the enemy immediately grabs the chance to pick Bane because he's OP. And honestly, I'd rather have an Alucard as a teammate than a Gusion. And look at that, the enemy picked Alucard. Make sure to watch until the end so you can see why Alucard is one of the strongest picks right now. And now, here's the final draft. Yes, we've got a gold lane Granger, which is actually a great answer to Bane since he's got the range to poke and pressure him safely from a distance. But wait, here are 3 rotations you can try in solo RG roam. First, provide vision for your team. Second, to leash your jungler. And third, and my personal favorite, punish the most vulnerable lane immediately. It could be their EXP lane, gold lane, or even mid, depending on which one's easiest to take down. In this particular match, Alucard is the perfect target because he's using vengeance, which means he has absolutely no reliable escape option. And look, it seems like we've got an AFK teammate. But we don't panic, this is just another normal day in solo RG. I've got to commend Arlott here for knowing his assignment, baiting out the Alucard. Sure, Alucard can easily sustain Arlott's damage in a 1v1 situation, especially with vengeance equipped, and that's exactly why he's so confident diving in deep. But we need to take advantage of this, and we could have easily taken him down right here, but unfortunately, Arlott missed his skill too and hit the minions instead of Alucard. But of course, we're not letting that Alucard recall and get back to base safely. We even commit our flicker just to catch him in time and finish the job. Although I understand that some players may not agree with this roaming strategy, and that's perfectly fine. I want to break down why it actually works so well in solo ranked. Yes, I get it. This strategy can leave other lanes more vulnerable, especially your jungler. You might even get blamed for not sticking to the traditional roaming duties like providing vision, protecting jungle entrances, or acting as the frontline. But here's the thing, this is solo ranked, not a coordinated 5-man setup. In solo ranked, you don't really know your teammates, their playstyle, their awareness, or even how they make decisions during intense moments. And that's the biggest difference. I've played and tested every possible roam rotation in solo queue, playing standard vision control, jungle support, map coverage, lane shadowing, you name it. But trust me, this one right here has given me the highest win rate, around 80%, and that's no exaggeration. Because in solo ranked, the truth is simple. You can't always trust your jungler or your teammates to capitalize on the advantages you set up. Take this match for example. It's very clear that our Gusion isn't the most reliable. So even if I spent the early game doing textbook roam duties, all of it would have gone to waste because my teammates can't fully make use of the setup. That's why this solo RG strategy focuses on impact and punishment, not just support. Instead of spreading myself too thin across the map, I focus my rotation where I can create the most pressure, usually the most vulnerable lane. This not only gives my lane a huge advantage, but it also starts a psychological chain reaction within the enemy team. Here's what happens most of the time. The lane that keeps getting punished, like this Alucard in our game, starts to tilt. His teammates then start blaming him for feed. In return, he defends himself saying, "You're not helping my lane. There's too many here. It's your fault I'm fed." Before you know it, the enemy team begins arguing instead of focusing on objectives. Their map movements fall apart, rotations become slower, and their overall decision-making crumbles. That's the hidden power of this strategy. It doesn't just win through takedowns or objectives, it wins by disrupting the enemy's morale and communication. And that's why it's so effective in solo rank, where teams are made up of random players who aren't used to working together. Now, of course, if you're playing in a full 5-man squad with proper coordination and comms, this approach wouldn't make sense. It would look like you're babysitting one lane, and that's a terrible move for organized play. But in solo queue, where chaos rules and trust is uncertain, this kind of controlled chaos, this solo version of the dark system, is what can carry games consistently. It's not flashy, it's not traditional, but it's brutally efficient in the solo ranked games. Now, I hope you're still following how I rotate while I'm explaining everything, because this part is really important. And just in case you missed it earlier, notice that we're not camping in the EXP lane all the time. We actually rotated down to the bottom lane to assist our gold laner, and we also made sure to show up during the turtle objective to help our team secure it. That's the beauty of this rotation. It's not just about staying in one lane, it's about creating controlled unpredictability across pressure. And here's something I really want you to observe carefully. Since we're constantly showing presence in the EXP lane, the enemy starts assuming that we're always there, fully committed to that side of the map. But what they don't realize is that we're casually slipping out of their vision, rotating in unexpected lanes, and catching them completely off guard. This gives the illusion that we're predictable, but in reality, we're setting up a trap through misdirection. This kind of movement creates massive confusion for the enemy team. They start second-guessing their map awareness. They don't know whether you're still guarding the EXP lane or already rotating somewhere else. That uncertainty alone is powerful. It delays their pushes, breaks their confidence, and sometimes even makes them hesitate to take objectives because they're unsure where you'll appear next. This is exactly what makes the dark system roam rotation so dangerous when mastered. It's not just about brute force or timing, it really is a psychological warfare. You're not just fighting on the map, you're controlling how the enemy thinks about the map. And if you can do that, then you've already won half the battle before the fight even begins. So if you can learn how to apply this kind of dark system rotation properly here in solo RG, it becomes a nightmare for the enemy. They lose track of your movements, start making poor rotations, and eventually collapse under the pressure. Now, as you can see, unfortunately, our entire team just got wiped out. But don't be sad because Mincy can clear waves fast and easily, and we actually managed to help Arlott snowball pretty hard. He had a great start and was winning most of his matchups, which gave us a solid early game advantage. But as the game went on, he started playing a bit too recklessly, diving too deep, taking unnecessary fights, and not respecting enemy positioning. And because of that, he kept getting shut down over and over again. So the enemy team gets the bonus shutdown gold and experience, slowly closing the gap. You'll notice how their damage output begins to spike, their rotations get tighter, and they start regaining control of the map. That's the danger of momentum in ranked games. It doesn't matter how strong your start is, a few shutdowns can completely flip the game around. So at this point, we need to play smart and patient. Our job now is to stall, clear waves, and wait for the right moment to punish their overextensions. Because as long as Mincy is alive, there's always a chance for a comeback and regain control of the map. Since Arlott keeps diving deep into enemy territory, I decided to stick with him again this time. And you'll notice that their Franco has actually started to copy our earlier strategy, which is sticking to their EXP. And yes, we successfully managed to shut down Alucard. But look, right after that, Arlott dives in deep again, putting our Granger in serious danger. Thankfully, we managed to pause the game. Because you see, all roamers can set up plays for the team, but not all roamers necessarily need to be the ones in the frontline. Take Atlas for example. He's not really meant to be a frontline, although he can absorb a bit of damage, but his real strength is in setting up plays. If you position him right in front, he becomes too easy to poke and his initiation becomes predictable. That's why Atlas should stay slightly behind or find an unexpected angle to engage, so he can surprise the enemy and land the perfect setup. I'm explaining this so that non-roam players can understand why some tanks or roamers don't always stay in front. But it's a completely different story when you have roamers like these, because they're the ones designed to be a frontline. And one key role of roamers other than to soak up damage is to check bushes. So when you're playing roam Mincy, just use your hook to scout for enemies, because remember, Mincy isn't a frontline. His playstyle is actually more similar to Atlas. That's why if you're using Minsitthar as a roamer, I highly recommend having a tanky EXP laner and a utility jungler who can front for the team. Mincy works best when he has the element of surprise, so as much as possible, you need to stay hidden on the map and look for the perfect moment to engage. But let's say your team comp is all squishy, which is pretty common in solo RG. In that case, encourage your teammates to stick close to you and just wait for you to land your hook. Because you see, even a team without a proper frontline can still work, as long as your heroes can lock enemies down or create plays from a distance, just like Minsithar's hook. It's all about timing, coordination, and trust to your roamer. Now, some might say, so you're just making it easy for enemy frontliners like Tigreal to catch you? Well, here's the thing, doing that is actually risky for them, because Mincy can instantly drop King's Calling to counter-engage and completely shut down their initiation, turning the game into our favor. And here's a perfect example of a counter-engage. Right after our gold laner got caught, we instantly followed up with our hook. Yes, having a solid frontliner is undeniably important for any team composition, but let's be real, we're playing in solo ranked games, not in a perfectly coordinated 5-man squad. And in solo RG, the reality is harsh. If you want to win and climb, sometimes you have to bend the law. You can't always depend on random teammates to play their roles properly and to follow up on your setups. That's why if you want to carry Dark System, you have to become part of the system yourself. Now, take revamped Alice as an example. She's great, tanky, initiator, and a strong teamfight frontliner. But in solo ranked, she's far from ideal. Why? Because Alice shines when her teammates know how to follow up and capitalize on her set. She can soak tons of damage, yes, but her damage output is limited. And if your damage dealers just stand there or fail to follow up when you initiate, then all your effort goes to waste. Even if you have a global badge Alice, you'll still lose games if your team doesn't know how to play around you. That's why I can't blame roamers who choose to build damage or hybrid setups instead of going full tank in solo rank. Because honestly, that's the only way to farm stars and actually carry games when you're playing alone. You have to adapt, you have to be creative, and sometimes that means breaking out of the textbook playstyle that only works in coordinated squads. Now, I already know that 5-man squad players will not understand this. They'll probably call it a dark system play, but let me pay respect to all the solo players out there, the ones grinding rank on their own, the ones who get blamed no matter what build they use. Because here's the truth, the audacity of those teammates who complain about damage roamers and they say we have no frontliner. That's why we're fed, but when the roamer actually goes full tank, they still can't take advantage of it. So tell me, what's the point of going full defense when your team doesn't know how to use it? And I'm sorry if this sounds harsh, but it's something that needs to be said. If you keep getting taken down just because you don't have a frontliner, then you're still weak and you're just not improving. You're relying too much on comfort with having a frontline, because a skilled player can survive and outplay even without a tank. Only if you know how to calculate, how to read cooldowns, and how to position properly, how enemies can get you, how their skills and passive work, where exactly they are on the map even if you don't see them in the mini-map. In short, you already have this so-called game sense. Trust me, you'll rarely get fed. So instead of blaming your roamer, try improving yourself. Look at this clip. For example, King Kong manages to dodge multiple crowd controls and still escape without a frontliner. That's skill, not luck. And that's exactly what solo players need to develop. You don't need to master every single hero in the game, but you should at least understand their kits, their cooldowns, and their mechanics. That alone can help you avoid unnecessary takedowns and misplays. Personally, every time I got taken down, I don't blame my teammates. I ask myself, what did I do wrong? How can I fix it next time? That's how you improve. Because if you always point fingers at your teammates, you'll never grow. And this is one of the main reasons why solo queue is so mentally draining. Most players rely too much on roamers or tanks. The moment they don't have one, they lose composure and tilt in the game. But that's the beauty of being a solo player. You're forced to adapt, to think, and to carry yourself. You can't demand your random teammates to pick exactly what you want or build the way you want them to. You just work with what you have. That's what separates a casual player from a true solo warrior. And I'm not suggesting everyone should start going damage build on roamers. That's not the point. What I'm saying is, understand why some of us do it. This is how we survive in solo rank. This is how we carry inconsistent teams. Now at this point, here's how we plan our defense. We'll be the ones to pull and clear the minions coming from mid, while my 3 teammates handle the waves in the top lane. So we position ourselves in this area, ready to hold the mid lane waves. And by the way, here are the items we're using in this match to counter Bane's burst. And yes, we successfully managed to stop the minions. We did our best here, but for some reason, Gushin hesitated to sacrifice himself just to clear the top wave. He and Selena went back to base, which gave the minions a chance to push in. And yes, we lost this game, but I hope you still learned something. Once again, this is Checkmate. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, so you won't miss our next guide.